Hello everyone. We're back with the Sitrep podcast channel, and we're going to do a quick web game this afternoon of Barry Doyle's Valor and Victory. I've been working, viewers of the channel will know that I've been working for a while on this to expand it into the Vietnam era, and now we're going to give that game another playtest with some new units. We're going to pit the U.S. Army Special Forces against some NVA regulars. And I'm here with Gianna. Hello everybody.
Hello, everybody.
All right, sounds good. All right, here we go with Valor and Victory. Gianna, I am assuming that you are wanting to play the American Special Forces with helicopters.
That would be wonderful.
I am calling that one, call me Nostradamus. I'm going to go ahead and be psychic for a second. And I guess Nostradamus wasn't really a psychic, but...
Just a good guesser.
Yeah, really good guesser. I'm going to go ahead and guess the future. So here's our map that we drew on Twitch stream a couple days ago. People who were with us a couple nights ago are going to recognize this map. We drew this live on stream. It took about an hour and 15 minutes. But that's all done. Here are our forces. So I am playing the People's Army of North Vietnam. More commonly
Wow, you did those, huh?
Yes. Now the artwork themselves, the actual paintings of the actual troops, those are usually from like an Osprey book or something like that. But as far as, cutting them out of the source material, putting a stroke around them, compositing them together, like these two images were not, like these two riflemen are not from the same image. Getting their images to be the right color tone or whatever, designing them into the counter, putting in the markings, putting in the game values, play testing the game values, getting all of these weapons, all these support weapons, these grenades and so on. Yeah, there's a little bit of work. But it's not like I sat down with a paintbrush and a canvas and literally, put together these counters from scratch. At least from complete scratch.
That's amazing.
Cool, thank you. The map, on the other hand, is people who saw the stream the other night saw as we were, pixel for pixel, we drew that map.
Wow.
So here are our weapons and our NVA troops. We have commanders over here on the side, followed by half squads or weapons crews. Support weapons. Full squads, these are the ones with two figures instead of one. The difference between a half squad and a full squad. And of course the numbers are larger for a full squad. And some more support weapons. We have a douche, because I know you have helicopters, and I want to make Gianna cry. That is my goal for the game. I'm going to shoot down at least one helicopter, so I had to make sure I have a douche. We have RPGs, we have PKMs, we are ready to play. Over here we have, oh my lord, we have American Special
wow,
Forces.
I love those counters.
Yeah. So, we were talking about these on the street the other night as well. Why is my OBS window keep popping up? That's really annoying. Okay, there we go. Yeah, let me go ahead and zoom in. I think this is as far as I can zoom in. There we go. Yeah, so we have slicks. I think you have 4 slicks. Handle the helicopters first. They're carrying basically a squad and a half of troops each, and then there's one more slick, and then we have one gun shuttle that's carrying in one more commander and a half squad with an additional M60. So pretty much this is
nice.
what's loaded. This is what's loaded in all the helicopters. So these squads have very high numbers. 12 is their attack factor. That's absurdly high. A World War II rifle squad has a 4. A World War II submachine gun squad has a 6. These have 12s because if you actually take the math in Valor and Victory and you break it down, you'll find that you can reverse engineer the math that Barry Doyle used to build his original counters. You add in to every 4-man fire team a fully automatic support weapon, usually an M60, and you're going to come up with much bigger numbers. M60s in this game usually have a 3, so it's almost like every squad has at least 2 more M60s. So everybody has a fully automatic weapon that gives them a 6, and 2 M60s because there's 2 4-man fire teams and an 8-man squad. So therefore you wind up with a 6 plus 3 plus 3. That's where the 12 comes from. And on top of that, these guys can also carry even more support weapons. That's up to your discretion. But for people who play Valor and Victory, who might be watching this either on Twitch or later on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere, what you'll see is, people who might be familiar with Valor and Victory see these really are obscenely high values. There is some logic. That's where the value comes from. There are basically two M60s already baked into these counters, and then on top of that you can carry another M60 on top of that if you want. And that's pretty much that fire team carrying an additional M60. So he's basically rocking, like this example, that's a half squad with a 9, 6+3, if he's carrying that M60. Two guys with M16s, two guys with M60s. That's a lot of firepower. We have our commanders here. The better the commander, the bigger this negative number. So I always say this when I'm playing Valor Victory. People see this negative number, they think it's a penalty. That is a bonus. It is the difficulty modifier. That's how much he makes things easier. That's how much he lowers the difficulty for pretty much any task for infantry units with which he's stacked. So if, Lieutenant Wargame here is stacked with all these guys, anything that they try, they get a -2 their difficulty. Is pretty much what that equals. So anyway, those are all of our American forces.
I do have one question.
Yep.
Looking at the crew-served weapons or your light weapons, how come there are Marine Corps symbols on all of those?
Well, there's Marine Corps and U.S. Army. So what I didn't have time to do was to go into Photoshop, remove all those, and replace them with Special Forces.
That's all good. I was just wondering.
We did that for the forces.
I was thinking that the Special Forces did what they're famous for, and quote-unquote borrowed weapons from somewhere.
Yeah, as long as they don't borrow too many laws. If you read about the Battle of Long Bay, the Special Forces did have a very good time with the law. It was like literally the first time the law had really been used in combat, and it did not have an auspicious debut. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
They had like 100 of them, and I think like 3 of them actually fired. Things don't get super complicated. Well, they're like literally a brand new weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hueys have some door guns. That's the 5 up there in the corner. But the real money, as far as helicopters go, is your one gunship. It's not an Apache gunship or even a Cobra.
Of course,
It's just a UH-1 with some guns on it. That's why I can only carry half as much stuff. This T number, T2, and T1 is the troop carrying capacity. But obviously, as you can see, it can carry a lot more firepower. Okay, so the NVA has set up first. The NVA forces, you'll notice, are all blacked out. You don't know where they are or what they are. You might also notice that there are a lot more black boxes on the map than there were NVA forces.
Mm-hmm.
There were only, like 20 or so NVA counters. We're not including the grenades. So, yeah, 4 rows of 5. There's only 20 NVA counters on here. There's 35 boxes on that map. That's because there are a lot of fakes. There are a lot of dummies. This is an old rule that I'm borrowing from GDW Assault and a bunch of other games, where players can have pretty much inverted counters, and it's a way to have hidden movement without 2 maps and a referee and all the usual drama that comes with that kind of rule mechanic. So when you spot an enemy unit, and we have special rules for spotting, they're pretty obvious. You either bump into them, they fire at you, or they run out in the open, and you have line of sight on the hex where they're in the open. Right now, nobody's in the open. They get unmasked. Helicopters can also try to spot, although it's going to be really tough as long as the NVA remains undercover. The NVA is really good at staying hidden.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So don't expect too much of that. You're going to be finding a lot of these guys the hard way. But nothing's more embarrassing than launching an assault on a hex only to kick the door down and find out there's nobody in there. We'll reveal those counters when the time comes for them to happen. Dummy counters move around just like anybody else. So it's up to me to try to bluff or fake or screen and try to move around my dummy counters as if they were real counters, so that you as a player don't really know what the NVA is up to. That said, as you contact more and more NVA units and more NVA units are revealed, I should also note that as soon as a dummy counter is encountered and revealed, it's eliminated. So the number of dummy counters are going to sharply decrease as the game goes on, and that's pretty much your NCOs and your platoon leader getting a much sharper image, a sharper picture of the battlefield as the battle progresses. By the end of the battle, there'll probably be no dummy counters. You'll know where everybody is, and half of them will be dead by that point. You are totally going to win this battle. You don't even...
Oh, now you're doing to me.
No, I'm serious. I mean, you are totally... Now, I didn't say you were going to win the game. You're going to win the battle. You have I don't even really outnumber you. Your troops are literally twice as good as mine. You're all elite. None of my guys are elite. You've got helicopters, you've got a gunship, you've got grenades and satchel charges. You've got a big edge in firepower, mobility, and everything else. The bad news is I get a victory. I get 4 victory points for every casualty point I inflict on you. You get 1 for every casualty point you inflict on me. So
gotcha.
It's asymmetrical warfare.
Of course.
You can kind of buy some of that back, so to speak, by taking prisoners. Any MVA prisoner you take is worth 4 victory points for yourself. That's the formula that we've been more or less using in a lot of our Valor Victory games, and so far it's been treating us. Pretty well. And now it's really up to you to come in from the east side. Okay, the objective of the game. This is one thing I probably should have covered. Are these obvious objective hexes? They have these little target icons on them.
Mm-hmm.
There are 7 in all. And you have to have at least 4 of them by the end of turn 6. The average Valor and Victory game lasts 6 turns. So you have to have at least 4 of them by the end of turn 6. What this pretty much is a traffic depot, or like a jungle staging point. This is just on the South Vietnamese side of the Laotian border in the 3-Corps sector, up in the Pleiku Islands. So, the Ho Chi Minh Trail comes down south through Laos. It has all these exits that continue to kind of split off and lead into different points along the South Vietnamese border, first out of Laos and then later on through Cambodia. So it's like a one-sided tree. It's like this trunk comes down and all these branches just keep streaming into South Vietnam in all these areas. This is one of those points. And your mission, Lieutenant Morgan, is to fly in here with a slightly reinforced platoon and take out some of these areas. So these are the usual objective hexes. We have a stream crossing. We have a crossroads. This road leads into Laos. Pretty much right off the map is Laos. That's the reason this one leads further up. This is probably to another egress route out of Laos into South Vietnam. Building hexes. That's probably a warehouse where they have ammunition, food, supply. Probably an aid station. You probably want to take that up. Probably a communication station. There's reasons for the objective hexes. This here is an LZ. This is LZ Zulu. You want to take that. Of course, you only have to take 4 of these. As long as you got at least 4 of these, the captain's happy. Or your battalion CO is happy. But that's the reason why these objective hexes are these objective hexes. I'm pretty sure this building hex is an objective hex as well. Did I accidentally cover that up? Yeah, that's an objective hex as well.
Okay.
So there's 7 in all. That's the overall, meta story. It's late 1967. The Viet Cong and especially the NVA are really building up in this sector. They're building up in all the sectors. Spoiler alert, they're building up to Tet. Tet is about 6 weeks out. It's mid-December 1967, so you got about 6 weeks until Tet. Army intelligence is really starting to pick up a lot of movement across this border, and they want to start shutting it down. And if you can take any prisoners, that's, again, 4 victory points. That's a big bonus. Because then they take them back to battalion, they take them back to 3-Corps headquarters back there at Da Nang. They, handcuff them to a chair and they start asking him polite questions over and over again until they start to get a clear idea of what's coming in January 1968. So if you want to stay at Nap of the Earth or at low altitude, what you would just do is tell me where you want to move your helicopters. They can land at the end of their turn, and tell me like what path that they're flying in. You can land in any hex that does not have trees in it or does not have an elevation change. So, if I zoom in for an example, you can't land on a slope. So in game, you can totally land in M11. L10 is clear, but that's on a slope. If the helicopter tries to land there, it's going to tip over. You cannot land in M11 because it's trees. You can land on L9. That's just a flat top of a hill. You can land there if you want, and you can land in a stream. That's like the helicopter going down to like 3 feet, and the guys jump out into the water. These streams are like a foot deep. These are like little rice paddy streams.
Okay.
And that's really it for helicopters, as far as until they start getting shot at or start shooting at people.
All right. So the first slick, that's.
Yep, that's Lieutenant Morgan. I'm going to continue to call him Captain Morgan because I refuse to call him Captain Morgan People are gonna think
come on!
This is a different kind of stream.
Well, the team lead, so ODA, team lead.
Yep.
We're gonna pop him right into P5.
Okay, so he enters like down this road. Okay, is he gonna stop?
Stops right there.
He's gonna stop there. Okay, he's gonna stop there. He's gonna unload troops.
Correct.
All right, that was easy. I'll straighten out the stack later.
Yep.
Just to kind of dump everybody in there. Okay, nobody's firing at you yet.
Huh? The second slick.
Silence before the battle. I know Charlie's
The second
out
slick.
there, man. He's out there somewhere. Okay.
Oh, they're always out there. You can't see them, right? The second one's going to land in 05.
Okay, she's being very cautious. She's being very cautious. She doesn't want to lose any helicopters on the first go. Unlike Elisar, who flew his Australian birds like right over a douche nest with RPGs, and I came that close to shooting him down right off the bat. We almost had a Black Hawk Down game right off the bat. Alrighty. You know what? What is that? What is that strange noise?
Uh-huh.
Tick, 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 tick. We're going to give up some of our position.
Okay.
Okay. We have a DSHK, more commonly known as a douche. That is a very heavy machine gun, weighs 106 pounds without the tripod or ammo. That thing's a beast. It has to have an entire crew to use it. It's a 4-man team. So you pretty much got 2 guys operating the gun and 2 more guys hauling him ammo. Probably 1 guy with a pair of binoculars as a spotter. Speaking of which, we also have the commander here. He's my company commander. He is going to apply a -2 bonus to, come on, pop up there. He's going to apply a -2 bonus, or -2 modifier to my die roll. Now, did I have line of sight on that helicopter as it came in? Oh, yes, I did. And let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so let me pop the douche out here. Okay, so the douche has a range of 10. It's firepower of 6, and it has a range of 10. So he's definitely within 10 axes. Okay, he is on top of this level 2 elevation hill. Okay, and so as he fires out, he's going to see these trees are sort of in his way, except no, these trees are at elevation 1. They're at J3 is elevation 1. So he shoots over the top of these trees, and he's aiming at M1, which is not screened by tree hexes L1 and M2, because these are trees also on elevation 1. M1 is elevation 2. So she was going for the high ground there, and I have a line of sight. I would be blocked by H3, but my blocking line begins at this hex side. So anything to the lower right of this hex side here is visible as far as hex H3 is concerned. So I did have line of sight. I'm taking a shot. This probably isn't the smartest move because I can't really support with anything else. Here's the reason I can't support with anything else. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I can support with something else. Mr. Zhang Zhuan here has an AK that has a range of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's barely in range, so he can help. So it's going to become 2 plus 6 for the douche equals 8. This team here cannot help. That team is literally operating the douche. So we're looking at a grand total of 8 points. 2 for the CO and 6 for the douche against the Huey. And I get to subtract 2 from my die roll. Okay, luck be a lady tonight. Here it comes, ready to blast some fools.
Boxcars.
That's a 7. 7 becomes a 5. 7's right in the middle. That's cool. So that becomes a 5. That is a grand total of 3 casualty points. Okay. Mr. Huey has 3 casualty points. I just inflicted 3 casualty points. When you're shooting at unarmored vehicles, you have to get more casualty points than the vehicle has. The vehicle has 3, I did 3. So that Huey has probably survived. If I had scored 4 casualty points, it's an automatic kill. You know, bullets are really good at passing through soft-skinned vehicles and not doing any damage. Helicopters definitely included. If I just put bullets through the fuselage, through the tail boom or whatever, no worries. But if I start putting bullets into the engine or into the tail rotor, if I hit something good, that's why it becomes pretty much luck-driven. Once I hit 4 casualty points, I've hit something, and that helicopter's going down. But I've hit 3, so that's enough to pin it down, and we'll get into how helicopters get pinned in a second. But what has to happen now is I have to roll a d6, and I have to exceed the casualty rating. So I have to roll 1 d6 and get above a 3. So pretty much it's 50-50 at this point. Oh boy, come on. Hook me up. And that fell out of the box, but that became a 2. So the helicopter has survived. The helicopter, however, is pinned down. How do you pin down a helicopter? The helicopter has to fly somewhere immediately outside of range of any NVA weapon. So the NVA weapon has a range of 10. 10 literally puts it outside the board, but he pretty much has to fly back to where he's no longer in my line of sight. The closest hex in which he's not in my line of sight looks like Papa 1. Because now it's a level 2 firing point, level 2 helicopter with level 2 trees in the way. And now it's up to you. Do you want to drop your troops there, or do you want to try to drop your troops next turn?
Let's I will not unload at this time.
Okay. That's the second time I almost shot down someone's helicopter. Damn it. I literally rolled a 2, guys. That'd have been a 4 up. Someone would be in tears right now, and I'd be laughing. My evil Palpatine laugh. Okay, we have your gunship. See, here's the bad news. I have now revealed the position, and here comes Mr. Gunship.
Yep.
Gunship, however, is still carrying troops. Command decision time. So he flies in that way. He has arc of fire. He's going to go ahead and take a shot. He's in range. Okay. What I'm going to do is make a copy of this counter. No, you do not get 2 helicopters.
Ah, damn.
Yeah. But to kind of, because these counters get kind of hectic. There's a lot going on here. Okay. So again, C is if you're firing your rockets at an armored target. Nothing on the table is armored, so we can just go ahead and ignore that C. The forward-firing rockets, however, can also make a mess of troops, turn them into human linguini. That is the 18 factor. You get to use that exactly once. Okay? Yep. You get to combine that with your frontal-firing machine guns, 2 machine guns here in the nose. That's the 6. You get those all game. That's why it's broken out into 2 values. And then you also get 5s, which can fire in any direction. The 6s and the 18s and the C, if you ever use them, have to fire toward the front. So the long story short is, for this one shot, you get to fire everything if you want, or you can save your rockets.
Fire it all.
Okay, fire it all. That is 14 plus 6 is 24 plus 5. That's the 2 door guns. This guy is coming in hot. The weight gauge on the helicopter is literally, the pilot can actually see it decrease as brass just falls out of this bird. Just. All right, so we have 18 plus 6 is 24 plus 5 is 29. Oh my god. Why 29? Why did the game designer pick 20? Oh, because it puts you exactly on the yellow column. It's almost like Oriskany had a plan. 29 points. That puts you on this gigantic yellow column here. Okay. In that bird, you have Master Sergeant Clark. He applies a -1 bonus. So you get to take 1 off your roll. That's the good news. Here is the not so good news. You have to add 2 to your roll because I am in woods. That woods gets me covered. So it's a net add 1 to the roll. You want to roll as well as you can. You want to roll as low as you can. You have to add 1 to the roll.
2d6.
Yeah.
3.
3? Seriously? Holy
3.
crap. 3 becomes a 4. That is 7 casualty points. Oh my lord. Alright, let's pay for casualty points. This is going to be easy. Because there aren't 7 casualty points in that stack. Okay, so casualty points is the last number on an infantry unit. So he's worth 1. He's literally 1 guy. He's a 2. He's a 4-man team. He gets 2. And you'll see that the machine gun doesn't have any because he's not a casualty. He's just a piece of equipment. So long story short, you did 7 casualty points. There are only 3 casualty points in that stack. There's a big mushroom cloud coming out of Hotel 4. They're toast. Okay, so after, advance on assault phase is the belly crawl phase. It's after you run, after you attack. Everybody, no matter what they've done, as long as they're not pinned, gets to move 1 hex. And that does not include helicopters, but troops who have just jumped out of a helicopter. So in real life terms, during the movement phase, the helicopters went in and dropped the troops, and now in the after assault phase is when the troops literally spread out from the LZ and try to take cover. Because by default, they have to be in an open hex, because that's where they had to land. But now all of your ground troops get to move 1 hex in any direction you want. Group, this is, I'll call him Captain Morgan. There we go. Captain Morgan, what are you doing? You landed like
Papa 4.
Papa 4. He's heading up to that hooch. Okay, we'll get to this in just a second. Because guess what you just did? You just moved adjacent to potential NVA units.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Come on, machine. There we go. Okay, so what's in these things? Let's find out. Format picture. We go to full brightness. Oh, I like this where the dialogue box covers up what's in there. one last moment of suspense.
Dun dun dun.
What's in there? What's in there? Empty jungle.
Dang it.
And same with the other one. So they went up to that house, like or into that hooch to kind of clear, not into the hooch because they haven't reached it yet, but
right.
They got up to that hooch, and yeah, there's nothing in there.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're in the after action phase. We can try to rally that helicopter. The helicopter is considered elite, so you have to roll a 7 or less on 2d6. Oh, that helicopter also has a -1. I don't know if that would be a first lieutenant, second lieutenant, or a master sergeant or something. He has a -1 leader in there, so now that roll goes, basically you subtract 1 from your roll. What you're looking for is a natural 8 or less on 2d6.
9.
Okay, that bird is still smoking, and the co-pilot maybe got hit, and they're still they're still freaking out a little bit. So that bird is going to remain pinned at the beginning of your turn. Movement rate in this game is always 4. Unless you have an officer with you, then it becomes 6. It costs 2 points to move up a hill and 2 points to move into woods. This is where you start like playing poker with your opponent. You pick up counters that you know are dummy counters, and you do I want you like pretend that they're real. You like counting, but it's all fake because it's a dummy counter. Don't play the game, play the man. So American Turn 2 begins with the command phase. First thing that happens in command phase is this unit automatically rallies. You get a chance to rally at the end of your turn, but rallying becomes automatic at the beginning of your next turn. What you're pretty much rolling for there is, do I have to remain pinned through an entire enemy movement phase? It wasn't too bad for Mr. Clark there in his helicopter because nobody else could see him. But if you're in an actual firefight and it's the end of your turn and you get pinned down, you really want to rally because you don't want to be pinned down during the entire NVA movement phase. Because then he runs toward you, he assaults, and if he assaults anybody who gets assaulted while they're pinned down is automatically destroyed. Any American units that are taken in that assault, not shot down, not just killed through normal gunfire, whenever it becomes an assault, that is a captured casualty. That is 8 victory points for the NBA player. If an and LSR 2590 will tell you this, Rasmus will tell you this, if the Free World Forces or the first, like the regular Army force, If you get one good stack of forces, like a 4-unit stack, captured in an assault, that's like 42 points or 32 points. 8 times 4. That's game. That's pretty much. That's a whole bunch of people heading up to Hanoi for the next 6 years. Bunking with John McCain. It's not going to be good. You want to really avoid that. And the next phase after that is fire phase. Anything that moves or anything that shoots pretty much isn't going to move, and vice versa.
Let's go L4.
Alright. Well, with that douche guy, you can go ahead and get brave. Alrighty. Super quick check. Alright. Yeah, with that douche out of the way, I do have some RPGs running around, but those RPGs don't have the best range. Okay, so green is on the deck.
Let's move the gunship.
Okay.
Ooh, this is tough. I don't want to get too aggressive too quickly.
Where's Charlie? Where is he?
Let's move. He's going to go high altitude.
Okay.
And we're going to put him...
He can change altitude once during his turn, so if he's currently low altitude, which he is, he can go high altitude at the beginning of his turn or the end of his turn, but then he's there during my fire phase afterwards. So just bear it in mind.
Yeah, we're going to go high altitude and move him to Papa 6.
Okay, so if he's high altitude, he is keeping his troops still on the ship?
Yep.
Alright.
So let's do Captain Morgan.
Alright. It's a Captain Morgan day. R.M.A.D. When did they do a pirate game?
Okay, so I want to take him along the road and move him into Mary.
Yep.
That's police talk. Mike 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was easier said than done. And it's now time to reveal some more, because now you're adjacent.
Building
What's in there? Oh, it's an empty jungle again. They said that there were going to be NVA troops here. Where the hell are they?
Military intelligence.
Come on, dude. Think. Format picture. Yeah, sometimes what some players will do is they will mix stacks with dummies and wheels, like to make a little stack look like a big stack. But yeah, these guys are all empty. All right, there's nothing there.
Okay.
Oh, one more rule, but we didn't miss it.
We
are just in time. This is the first ground movement of the game. We got to roll for booby traps.
You didn't say anything about booby traps.
Thick with booby traps. Technically, I did because I sent you this file last night, and there's a rule for booby traps.
Oh, sure. I was supposed to read it.
Yeah, you're smart. Okay, booby trap rules are super easy. Okay, when a unit moves on the ground, like I said, his movement rate is normally 4. When he has a leader with him, it's 6. If you maintain only half of your movement, in other words, if you just go out of your way to move really slow, you get to use what's called assault movement, and that's pretty much a +1 cover bonus. That also affects the booby trap check. Okay, so whenever a stack, and this is where the game starts to have some emergent properties, whenever a stack of non-Viet Cong or non-NBA infantry moves, you have to roll 2d6. An 11 or a 12 indicates a booby trap has been hit.
Okay.
Okay. If you're using assault movement, that number is now only a 12. So you're going very slow, and you're catching trip wires before they go off. This is why American units tend to clump up, just like they did in Vietnam. There's not a rule for it, but again, the rule specifies for booby traps you have to roll once for every stack. So if this guy was doing, they started off, let's say, in Papa 5, if he was doing something like this, let's spread out, guys. Congratulations, that's 4 rolls.
Yeah.
But here, it's only 1 roll because you guys were all, together. So 2d6, try not to roll an 11 or a 12.
How about a 3?
There you go, no booby traps. Sweet. Yeah, booby traps don't happen that often, but when they do, it's automatic casualty point. Take a half squad, knock them off, get the meta going. It's not fun. And it's automatic. It's 4 free victory points for me. Long story short, I have no direct fire. Or no defensive fire. That leads to your advance and assault phase. Any ground unit can move 1 hex if he wants.
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to move.
And that includes the guys that just landed.
Yeah. Can we move those into Lima 5, please?
Yep. Green, get out of the bird. Get down in that tree line. He's like right out in the open. It's not a good place. Sweet.
He will move to Juliet 1.
Ooh, he's feeling brave. He's knee deep in that creek. Don't drink that, you'll get malaria. Here is where you better hope and pray this is a false unit. Because if he assaults you and you're outstanding, literally with, alright.
Yeah, I know.
Let me go ahead and stop talking.